Hello and welcome to Quiz Time. I'm Jess, and today I have a general knowledge quiz for you. So it's thinking caps on and let's go. Which ancient Indian religion emphasized non-violence to all living beings, influenced later Hinduism and Buddhism, Jainism, Zoroastrianism, or Taoism? Jainism. What is the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead primarily used for? Spiritual guidance in the afterlife, astronomical predictions, or ritual sacrifices? Spiritual guidance in the afterlife. The Library of Alexandria was said to hold how many scrolls at its peak? 100,000, over 400,000, or 10,000? Over 400,000. In the 13th century, which empire's expansion is often linked to the spread of Islam across large parts of Africa? Byzantine Empire, Mali Empire, or Roman Empire? Mali Empire. Which city was buried under volcanic ash in 79 AD, preserving much of Roman daily life? Carthage, Pompeii, or Delphi? Pompeii. Which African kingdom was once one of the first to adopt Christianity as a state religion? Kush, Aksum, or Mali? Aksum. Which medieval Christian event caused massive persecution of both Jews and Muslims in Europe and the Holy Land? The Crusades, the Inquisition, or the Renaissance? The Crusades. What religion, founded in Persia, emphasized a cosmic battle between good and evil? Jainism, Confucianism, or Zoroastrianism? Zoroastrianism. What modern country was home to the ancient Mesopotamian religions? Iraq, Iran, or Egypt? Iraq. The Great Fire of Rome, though blamed on Christians, occurred under which emperor? Tiberius, Augustus, or Nero? Nero. Which ancient East Asian philosophy focused on balance, duality, and natural harmony? Taoism, Zoroastrianism, or Shinto? Taoism. In which region was the religious concept of reincarnation widely developed and accepted? Europe, South Asia, or North Africa? South Asia. The eruption of Mount Vesuvius impacted both Pompeii and which nearby city? Athens, Carthage, or Herculaneum? Herculaneum. Which West African empire was famed for its religious tolerance and immense libraries during the Middle Ages? Timbuktu, the Mali Empire, Ghana, or Benin? Timbuktu, the Mali Empire. The burning of the Library of Alexandria is attributed to multiple historical events, but who is one commonly blamed figure? Julius Caesar, Constantine, or Genghis Khan? Julius Caesar. Which religion developed from tribal African beliefs and was later syncretized with Catholicism in Latin America and the Caribbean? Yoruba, Confucianism, or Shinto? Yoruba, sorry. Which Middle Eastern city is sacred to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam? Jerusalem, Damascus, or Mecca? Jerusalem. Who preserved much of ancient Greek philosophy during the European Dark Ages? Romans, Vikings, or Islamic scholars in the Middle East? Islamic scholars in the Middle East. What were oracle bonuses used for in ancient China? Divination and communication, weapon crafting, or trade? Divination and communication. Which African city became a major centre of Islamic scholarship in the Middle Ages? Cairo, Timbuktu, or Johannesburg? Timbuktu. What religious festival in ancient Rome honoured the god Saturn and influenced Christmas traditions? Saturnalia, Bacchannalia, or Lupercalia? Saturnalia. The Code of Hammurabi is linked to which ancient civilization? Babylonian, Egyptian, or Roman? Babylonian. What massive event in 536 AD caused widespread darkness and crop failure? Plague, war, or volcanic eruption and climate change? Volcanic eruption and climate change. Which religion originated in Japan and revolves around kami, spiritual beings? Confucianism, Shinto, or Taoism? Shinto. What term refers to the spread of Greek culture and religion across the Middle East after Alexander the Great? Hellenization, Romanization, or Mesopotamian fusion? Hellenization. The Ashoka pillars are important artifacts of which religion spread? Islam, Jainism, or Buddhism? Buddhism. Which ancient civilization built step pyramids that predate Egyptian pyramids? Mesopotamians, Persians, or Romans? Mesopotamians. During the Middle Ages, which disease caused panic and was believed by some to be a divine punishment? Cholera, leprosy, or the Black Death? The Black Death. In what region was ancestor worship a dominant religious practice influencing daily life? East Asia, Southern Europe, or Scandinavia? East Asia. Which ancient city was known for its hanging gardens, one of the seven wonders? Babylon, Cairo, or Carthage? Babylon. The concept of yin and yang comes from which ancient system? Islam, Hinduism, or Chinese philosophy, Taoism? Chinese philosophy, Taoism. What structure was designed to protect Egypt from invading forces and inspired the Sphinx? Nile Wall, Ptolemaic Fortress, or Giza Complex? Giza Complex. Which European structure was built partly in reaction to Islamic advances in Spain? The Alhambra, Tower of Pisa, or the Louvre? The Alhambra. What natural event is believed to have inspired some myths about Atlantis? Earthquake in Crete, volcanic eruption in Santorini, or tsunami in Japan? Volcanic eruption in Santorini. Which female pharaoh declared herself divine and had temples built to honour her rule? Cleopatra, Nefertiti, or Hatshepsut? Hatshepsut. What was the central holy symbol of Zoroastrianism? Cow, sun, or fire? Fire. The term Middle Ages in Europe typically spans what years? 500 to 1500 AD, 300 to 800 AD, or 1000 to 1600 AD? 500 to 1500 AD. What African language group expanded due to agricultural and technological advances pre-colonialism? Khoisan, Bantu, or Berber? Bantu. Which ancient South Asian empire is famous for its Buddhist art and rock-cut architecture? Ashokan, Maurya, or Gupta? Ashokan. What type of religion is animism, commonly practiced in many indigenous African groups? Polytheistic, spirit-based nature worship, or aesthetic? Spirit-based nature worship. What religion, originating in Persia, influenced Christianity and Islam with ideas of heaven, hell, and a final judgment? Zoroastrianism, Jainism, or Hinduism? Zoroastrianism. The ancient city of Mohenjo-Daro, part of the Indus Valley civilization, is known for urban planning and sanitation systems, monumental tombs, or grand palaces? Urban planning and sanitation systems. The Christianization of Ethiopia is largely attributed to which figure? Augustine, Constantine, or Frumentius? Frumentius. The burning of the Library of Alexandria is considered a minor loss to the Roman Empire, a military strategy, or the greatest cultural loss of antiquity? The greatest cultural loss of antiquity. Which ancient Chinese philosophy emphasized social harmony, hierarchy, and filial piety? Confucianism, Taoism, or Shinto? Confucianism. Which Roman goddess was equivalent to the Greek goddess Athena, Juno, Minerva, or Diana? Minerva. In many traditional African religions, a shaman typically serves as a healer and spiritual mediator, a tax collector, or a political ruler. A healer and spiritual mediator. Which African ruler's pilgrimage to Mecca caused significant inflation in Egypt due to his wealth? Mansa Musa, Sundiata Keita, or Shaka Zulu? Mansa Musa. Which ancient Indian religion uses mantras and rituals to seek spiritual liberation? Hinduism, Buddhism, or Sikhism? Hinduism. Which volcanic eruption is believed to have caused global cooling and crop failures in the 6th century? Krakatoa, Vesuvius, or Il Pango? Il Pango. What event sparked the start of the War of the Roses? The assassination of Richard II, the signing of the Magna Carta, or the Battle of St Albans? The Battle of St Albans. Which royal house did Henry VII belong to before becoming the first Tudor king? Lancaster, York, or Stuart? Lancaster. What illness caused widespread death during the 14th century in Europe? Typhoid, Spanish flu, or bubonic plague? Excuse me. Bubonic plague. What was Queen Victoria's relationship to Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany? Cousin, grandmother, or aunt? Grandmother. Marie Antoinette was born into which royal house? Bourbon, Habsburg, or Tudor? Habsburg. What battle effectively ended the War of the Roses? Battle of Bosworth Field, Battle of Agincourt, or Battle of Hastings? Battle of Bosworth Field. Who was the last monarch from the House of York? Edward V, Edward III, or Edward VI? Richard III. Queen Victoria was also crowned Empress of what country in 1876? Australia, Canada, or India? India. What major tragedy wiped off Pompeii? Volcanic eruption, earthquake, or fire? Volcanic eruption. Which queen famously said, "Let them eat cake"? Marie Antoinette, Elizabeth I, or Catherine the Great? Marie Antoinette. What was the main cause of conflict between the Lancasters and the Yorks? Religious difference, territorial disputes, or succession to the throne? Succession to the throne. How did Richard III die? Killed in battle, executed, or poisoned? He was killed in battle. Which city's treasure was burned, marking a great historical loss? Rome, Athens, or Alexandria? Alexandria. The Tudor dynasty ended with which monarch? Mary I, Elizabeth I, or Edward VI? Elizabeth I. What dynasty ruled China during the European Middle Ages? Qing, Yuan, or Ming? The Ming. The Black Death killed approximately what fraction of Europe's population? 1/10, 1/3, or half? 1/3. What title did Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert, hold? Prince Consort, Duke of Edinburgh, or King Consort? Prince Consort. Who was the mother of Queen Elizabeth I? Catherine of Aragon, Jane Seymour, or Anne Boleyn? Anne Boleyn. The 100 Years' War was fought primarily between which two nations? England and France, France and Germany, or Spain and Italy? England and France. Who was the first monarch from the House of Tudor? Henry VII, Edward IV, or Henry VI? Henry VII. What infamous method of execution was used during the French Revolution? Hanging, guillotine, or firing squad? Guillotine. What natural disaster is believed to have contributed to the decline of the Mayan Empire? Prolonged drought, volcanic eruption, or an earthquake? Prolonged drought. What dynasty ruled over Japan during the medieval period? Heian, Tokugawa, or Kamakura? Kamakura. Queen Victoria's lineage connected her to how many of Europe's World War I leaders? 2, 3, or 4? 3. During what century did the War of the Roses take place? 13th, 15th, or 17th? 15th. Which war was partly blamed on the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, Queen Victoria's grandson-in-law? Crimean War, World War I, or Napoleonic Wars? World War I. The Great Fire of London occurred in which year? 1666, 1544, or 1701? 1666. The Plantagenet dynasty was succeeded by which house? Lancaster, Tudor, or Stuart? Tudor. What was the name of the medieval code of conduct for knights? Chivalry, honour, or valour? Chivalry. Who led the Norman invasion of England in 1066? William the Conqueror, Richard the Lionheart, or Edward the Confessor? Excuse me. William the Conqueror. What empire is known for building the Hagia Sophia? Roman, Byzantine, or Ottoman? Byzantine. The Medici family were powerful figures during the Renaissance in which country? Spain, France, or Italy? Italy. The Tower of London was originally built by which ruler? Henry VIII, William the Conqueror, or Richard I? William the Conqueror. Who was Henry VIII's sixth and final wife? Catherine Parr, Anne of Cleves, or Catherine Howard? Catherine Parr. The divine right of kings was used to justify religious reform, colonial conquest, or royal absolutism? Royal absolutism. What Asian religion developed the concept of karma? Christianity, Hinduism, or Islam? Hinduism. Which of the following was not a grandchild of Queen Victoria? Wilhelm II, Nicholas II, or Napoleon III? Napoleon III. What is often considered the deadliest pandemic in recorded history? Black Death, Spanish flu, or COVID-19? The Black Death. Which king built the Palace of Versailles? Napoleon, Louis, or Francis I? Louis XIV. Which queen ruled during England's Golden Age? Elizabeth I, Victoria, or Mary I? Elizabeth I. Which war saw the downfall of several monarchies, including Russia's Romanovs and Germany's Hohenzollerns, Crimean War, Napoleonic Wars, or World War I? World War I. What major conflict saw the Lancastrians and Yorkists battle for the English throne? The War of the Roses, the English Civil War, or the Glorious Revolution? The War of the Roses. Which of these queens was executed during the English Reformation? Mary Tudor, Jane Seymour, or Anne Boleyn? Anne Boleyn. What dynasty followed the collapse of the Western Roman Empire in much of Europe? Carolingian, Ottoman, or Merovingian? Merovingian. Who was the monarch when the Great Plague struck London in 1665? Charles II, James I, or Elizabeth I? Charles II. What document signed in 1215 limited the power of the English king? Domesday Book, Habeas Corpus, or Magna Carta? Magna Carta. What was the nickname of Queen Victoria due to her widespread influence across Europe? The Mother of Nations, the Empress of Time, or the Grandmother of Europe? The Grandmother of Europe. What famous English playwright lived during the Tudor and early Stuart period? William Shakespeare, Geoffrey Chaucer, or John Milton? William Shakespeare. What catastrophic fire destroyed much of ancient Rome in 64 AD, allegedly while Emperor Nero played the fiddle? The Palatine Inferno, the Great Fire of Rome, or the Forum Blaze? The Great Fire of Rome. And your last one. Which royal family ruled Austria-Hungary until the end of World War I? Habsburg, Hohenzollern, or Bourbon? Habsburg. So, how did you do today? Drop your score in the comments below and, of course, like and subscribe so you get notified every time we post a new quiz. And join us next time on Quiz Time.